For years, I was convinced I was good with money. I mean, I had a finance degree, I worked in banking, I could probably calculate compound interest in my sleep. But I was missing something absolutely huge, and it had nothing to do with theory.
And this right here is the absolute heart of it all. Knowing about money and actually being good with money, they are worlds apart. One is all about information in your head, and the other, well, that's about action. And today, we're going to close that gap.
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? Being educated means you get the concepts. You can pass the test. But being literate, that's about turning all that knowledge into daily habits that actually build wealth over time. It's about your behavior, not just what's in your brain.
So the big question is, how do we get from just knowing this stuff to actually doing it? Well, it's not about some massive, complicated overhaul of your entire life. It really just comes down to a few small, actionable habits that you can literally start today.
Okay, first things first. Let's make sure our money is actually moving in the same direction that we want our lives to go. This part is all about aligning your spending with what you truly value.
So here's a really simple exercise for you. Write down your top 5 priorities in life. Things like family, health, maybe financial freedom. Then pull up your bank or credit card statement and look at your last 30 days of spending. When I first did this myself, oh man, I was absolutely floored. I had health listed as my number 2 priority, but I'd spent over $400 on food delivery apps. That right there was a massive disconnect. And closing that gap, that's where real financial literacy truly begins.
And that's the key question you've got to ask yourself. Be brutally honest. Is your hard-earned cash actually building the life you say you want, or is it just kind of disappearing on things that don't really line up with your biggest goals?
This brings us to a huge mindset shift. Look, we are all wired for that instant hit of dopamine, that instant gratification. But real wealth, it's built by playing the long game. The trick is to stop thinking about it as a sacrifice. Every single dollar you invest today isn't a loss, it's a gift you're sending to your future self.
That little bit of money you set aside today might feel pretty insignificant right now. But trust me, over time, it compounds into freedom, into options, and into a kind of security you can't put a price on. It's a true act of self-care for the person you're gonna be.
All right, so we've shifted our mindset from sacrifice to self-care. Now let's talk about how to make these good habits actually stick around. This is all about taking willpower completely out of the equation and making good financial decisions pretty much automatic.
This habit right here was an absolute game changer for me. It's just 30 minutes, once a month. You review your spending, you check in on your goals, and this is the most important part. You pick just one single focus for the next 30 days. Maybe it's saving an extra $100. Maybe it's cutting back on takeout. Just one thing.
And this is exactly why focusing on that one thing is so darn powerful. We all do it, right? We get super ambitious, we try to fix every single thing at once, and what happens? We get overwhelmed and end up doing absolutely nothing. A single, clear focus is manageable, it's achievable, and it builds momentum.
And the other key to this autopilot system? Automation, my friend. I have automatic transfers set up to go to my savings, to pay my bills, and to fund my investments the day after I get paid. You make the good decision one time and the system just takes over, which frees up all that mental space for more important things. Okay, so our system is humming along, our spending is aligned with our values. Now let's talk about how to actively grow our wealth and crank up our financial potential. Seriously, the most important thing is to just start. It doesn't matter if it's small. Time is your single greatest asset when it comes to the market. Starting early with something really simple, like a low-cost index fund, is one of the biggest drivers of building long-term wealth. Period. All right, this next habit is all about turning that passive learning into active progress. Most people, they'll watch a video like this or read an article, feel really good and inspired, and then they do nothing. The trick is to pick one single takeaway from whatever you just learned and put it into action that very same day. Go open that high-yield savings account. Increase your pension contribution by just 1%. Just do something.
And this leads us to what is, honestly, probably the most powerful investment of them all. And it's not about the stock market. It's about your skills, your knowledge, your capabilities, because that is the one asset that nobody can ever take away from you.
Let's just talk numbers for a second. Let's say you spend $500 on a course that helps you learn a skill that earns you an extra $1,000 a year. That's a 200% return on your investment in the first year alone. And that just keeps compounding. Investing in yourself pays dividends for your entire life.
Okay, All of these habits are incredibly powerful on their own, but they get supercharged when you add this final one. We have to tackle the one thing that holds so many of us back: silence. It is time to start talking about money.
There's this huge disconnect going on. Think about it. A majority of us, over 60%, were taught that it's rude or tacky to talk about money. And yet, an even larger majority of us believe that talking about it is crucial for building wealth. We know it's important, but we're just too uncomfortable to do it. We are letting a social taboo get in the way of our own financial progress.
So how do you even start? It really doesn't have to be awkward. You can use really simple, casual openers with people that you trust. I'll give you a real example. I once asked a friend what app they used for investing. That one question led to an hour-long conversation where I learned about a high-yield savings account I'd never even heard of. That one conversation has made me thousands of dollars. You'd be so surprised how open people can be. You learn from their wins, their mistakes, and you realize you're not going through this alone.
So, as we start to wrap this up, if there's one theme that connects all of these different habits, it's the incredible, almost unbelievable power of small, consistent actions.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. You don't need a fancy degree or some super complex spreadsheet. All you need are small, simple habits that you can actually stick with. That is what truly builds a healthy, strong financial life.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Forget about tomorrow, forget about next week. Based on everything we just talked about, what is the one single, tiny thing you are going to implement before your head hits the pillow tonight?